So it's time for the Backhoe video, or should I say videos. And that's one of the reasons why this topic has been so long in coming. Part of this is I don't know how it ends, and it's kind of difficult to make these videos just hoping that it'll turn out. I still don't know quite how it ends, but we've gotten to a point where I'm pretty confident, and things are pretty much out of my hands at this point. The other reason that it's been delayed is it's taken a long time to get to this point, and that means there's footage that I have to then condense to try and make it a reasonable size video. And you guys know I can talk, so I want to keep these fairly condensed. There were 3 problems with the Backhoe, and so initially I thought, well, okay, 3 videos, we'll just divide them up into problems. The first problem is a hydraulic failure, and that started this whole thing going, and it's just shut down the Backhoe entirely, and trapped it. Actually, it was about a year ago now. I got in touch with a mechanic, and he said, "Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to help you out. Delighted to repair the Backhoe, repair the hydraulic seals there. No problem. I just need to be able to drive to the Backhoe," which of course he couldn't do because it was deep in the property. And from there, more problems developed. 2 more problems. The second problem that sort of developed was a tire problem, and I've had tire problems before. And the hydraulic problem doesn't take too long to resolve. In essence, I simply rig something up so that the hydraulics will mostly work, and that'll enable me to get the Backhoe off of the property, down the beach, and into the driveway, where my hope is that the mechanic will come and fix it. But the tire problem slowed me down a lot, and so this first video is the issue with the hydraulics, which is fairly simple, and my workaround, which is also somewhat simple, and then the issue with the tire. And then once I get the tire fixed, working, then I begin to drive the Backhoe off of the property towards the beach. It turns out I run into a second problem, which is the subject of the second video. So here we are, part 1 of 2 on Backhoe troubles. Enjoy. Here we go. I'm hoping today is going to be a very good day. Getting the Backhoe off of the property, down the beach, down the road, and then right back where we started, right back here, so that I can get a mechanic out here to fix the hydraulics. Lunch, water for me and some plants, water for plants. Let's go, and as we walk in, I'll fill you in on what's been going on. This is the little action camera that I've got, and I'm rather fond of it, I guess. But there's no microphone jack, so you can only use the built-in mic, and I'm hoping that the wind isn't going to be too bad for us.
we'll find out, as always, as I do these things. We'll find out just how the recording worked. So here's what's going on with the backhoe. The backhoe has, I guess, two problems. The first is hydraulic. On the cylinder that pushes the excavator arm from left to right, as you sit in the cab facing the excavator arm, pushes it from left to right, those seals are blown, and all of the hydraulic fluid is dumped out, which is a problem, because that means there's no hydraulic pressure, and that means that the front loader bucket has dropped, the excavator bucket has dropped, the outriggers have dropped, and so you can't move the backhoe until you can deal with the problem of dragging, all of the things dragging. The other problem, of course, is it's deep into the property, and I found a couple of guys who apparently are willing to work on it, just not where it sits. So the first thing I had to do was figure out how to keep all of those parts from dragging. And I thought, well, I'll buy ratchet straps, some fairly substantial ratchet straps, which I've done, and I'll just jack these things up and then ratchet them to keep them under some tension and up off the ground, and then I'll drive it out. But then I thought, Warner, that's all you need to do is isolate the cylinder that's leaking. So just disconnect it. And I was assuming that my connections were, my hydraulic connections were quick connects, which would be even better, of course, because the first nice thing about a quick connect is it's quick. But the other really nice thing about it is when you disconnect it, that line is sealed. That's it, poof, and great. That ought to do the trick. But when I crawled under the backhoe, I discovered that my connectors aren't quick connect; they are compression couplings. And not surprisingly, I've got two cylinders to disconnect, because the cylinder that pushes from left to right is tied into the cylinder that pushes back from right to left. It just, as plumbing goes, makes sense. So, and cylinders go sense. So, so I disconnected both of those lines, but now I have two lines just wide open. But there's a 3/8 inch compression coupling there, and so what I did was I bought a short section of 3/8 inch pipe, threaded pipe, and threaded both of those lines onto that pipe, using it as a connector, and that's fine. That's great. I've isolated the leaky cylinder. I put 5 gallons of fluid into the backhoe, and that's enough to give me pressure, and I'm able to move all of the components there. Now there's a little bit of a leak. It drips while the backhoe is running, but that's fine. I don't mind that. It's just a temporary solution. But that means that things will settle. But it's plenty for me to be able to get the backhoe out of here. The other issue is, not surprisingly, the tire, and you've heard me complain about the tires ad nauseum, I'm afraid. So the thorns here were popping my front tires on the backhoe. Those tires were worn, and I popped them 3 times, going maybe 100 feet in this attempt to make the driveway here. And so I had a guy replace those tires. He's in the tire import business, and I don't want to go into this in great detail. I'm satisfied, I guess, with what I got. It wasn't what I asked for, but I replaced a worn 4-ply tire with a brand new 12-ply tire, and I haven't had puncture problems since. However, when he made that swap, he used the tubes from the existing tires, which was fine, and I watched as his worker misaligned the tube in one of those tires, and he got the tube stem through the rim, but then he grabbed that tube stem with a pair of needle nose pliers and just started yanking on it to try and get that thing in place. I'm watching it, I'm thinking, that's not a good idea. And sure enough, he put a pinhole in it. Well, while the backhoe is down because of hydraulics, and it turns out I needed new tires for the Tesla, I figured I'll go to this fella, I'll get him to get tires for the Tesla. He can fix that inner tube. I actually had a replacement tube, even though he's the one who damaged it. Fine, use my tube, I don't care. That was the idea. Anyway, got that done, and the tire has been holding air without a problem ever since. So I'm pleased that I've got that problem fixed. However, when it was time to put the tire back on the backhoe, back on the wheel, there are 6 wheel bolts that bolt the tire onto the wheel itself. And 5 of those bolts went in just fine, and the 6th wouldn't go in. And I remembered at that point, oh yeah, this gave me problems last time. So I fiddled with it, and it just, that bolt would not go into that female thread. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try a different bolt. And I tried a different bolt, and it didn't go in. And fiddled with it, it didn't go in. And I just said, okay, I've got to fix this problem. And because the second bolt I knew was fine, I knew that worked because I just pulled it out of one of these threads, female threads. I knew that the problem was that particular female thread. Those internal threads were boogered up. The bolts were fine. So I need something called a tap, because a tap is what's used to create these female threads, these internal threads. Okay, so I get back to the house, and I make my first mistake of many, I'm afraid. And I Google what size is the JCB wheel bolt, and Google tells me it's 3/4 inch, 16 teeth per inch. So, okay, I hop onto Amazon. Sure enough, I can order that tap, and I do. It actually comes with the die as well. The tap cuts the female threads, the die cuts the male threads, makes the threads on the bolts. I don't need that, but what the heck. When that arrives, nice thing about that, I guess, is the bolt, if it's the right size, the wheel bolt should just thread into that die easily. It doesn't. So I thought, crap, what am I going to do now? I've got to be able to measure these bolts. Back in Virginia, I had these things called thread gauges, and they're wonderful little devices. They're easy, they're cheap, and you should be able to get them at any hardware store. I had a couple of them, in fact, back in Virginia, and I didn't pack them to come with us. They fold up, they're pretty compact, but I figured I'll never need this again. And it turns out here on the island, Advance Auto doesn't stock them, Auto Parts or AutoZone doesn't stock them, and Pep Boys doesn't stock them. So I had to order them from Amazon and wait. And it arrives, and what the thread gauge measures is the thread pitch, if it's metric, or threads per inch, if it's standard. And Sure enough, Google couldn't have been any more wrong because this is a metric bolt. It's a 2.0 pitch. Okay, at least I know the thread spacing. Then I make the next mistake. I Google, and I shouldn't have because I knew how much it had been wrong to begin with. What's the metric equivalent of a 3/4 bolt? And Google suggested 20 mils. So that would be an M20 2.0 pitch thread. Okay. So I look for that, can't buy that on Amazon. Best I can do is eBay, a company in China. Okay. So I order that, I wait, it arrives, and they send me the wrong thread pitch. They send me not the 2.0 that I ordered, but 2.5. So I write to them, and they apologize and refund my money so that I can reorder. So I've got to wait once again for this thing to come through, and it arrives. Yay! And it's M20 2.0. Great. And I come out here and give it a whirl, and it doesn't fit. And I'm just kicking myself. And I'm really kicking myself because I know better than this. I know what size, or I know how to figure out what size the bolt is. For the bolts here in my pocket, right? This guy. So I've at home I've got calipers, right, that will measure that diameter. So the tap doesn't fit here. I go home mad, frustrated, sit down, grab this bolt, grab my calipers, and sure enough, it's not 20 mils, it's 18. Okay, now I got it. I've got the thread pitch and I've got the diameter. I'm golden. So I order from China again the M18 2.0. They send the M18 2.5. And I write to them and said, I can't believe you did this to me twice. I can't believe you did this to me again. Please refund my money so we can try this again. And I did, and they have sent the tap, M18 2.0. So I'm anticipating that I'll be able to thread this, screw this into those threads, and this will push those damaged threads back where they ought to be, and then this will go right in which case my tire will fit. And at that point, I'll be able to crank this up, raise everything up off of the ground, and drive out. Let's see. That's it. Thing of beauty. Finally. This has been months. Months in the making. I'll try and figure out when I started this process, when I ordered from Amazon the 3/4 inch 16 teeth per inch tap, and I'll let you know here just how long it's been to make that work. Perfect. Woo! All right, time to put a tire on. That's called dressing the threads, and I know it doesn't look like much, and it's not, but it doesn't take much to booger up those internal threads there, those female threads, and when you do, this is what you're stuck with. All right, I think I'm going to crank her up, which will give me some hydraulic power. It should, at least, and I'll drive the front bucket down, and that'll lift this up, and I won't have to rely on my high lift jack. Couldn't have asked for better. What? That's success right there. Yay! Swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing. Finally get something to work right. All right, in order to get this thing out of here, I need to cut down a tree. And I think I'd like to catch it in the front loader bucket. So I'm going to use the little red cordless chainsaw that I've got. I won't tell you the name of it, of the manufacturer. I'll let you guess. But it's in the shed, so I'm going to go pick that up. I've also got some watering to do of plants, so I'll do that. But you don't need to see any of that at the moment. And when I'm done, I will grab the chainsaw. We'll hop in the backhoe, and we'll drive on out of here. See you soon. Everything that needs to be put away in the shed is put away in the shed. I've got the red saw, cordless saw, in the backhoe with me. I'm going to crank it up, and we'll see if I can set this thing up in a place where it doesn't fall over and you can ride along with me. I haven't got a lot of hope about that, but we'll try. So the idea is to drive her on out of here. I will keep the loader bucket down a bit just to verify that the path out is as clear as I think it is, because it's all pretty overgrown. And then when we get to the part that has a tree that I have to take down, I'll hop out, drop the tree hopefully into the loader bucket so that I can just then set it off to the side and can keep on keeping on at that point. So that's the plan. No idea if this is still running, but if so, a bigger pain in the butt to get here than I thought it would be. Without the hydraulics guiding that excavator arm left and right, it was just swinging wildly, and those straps really weren't holding it in place all that well. So, a real challenge to get it this far. Lots of stops and starts to reposition straps and what have you. Anyway, right in front of us is the limb that I've got to cut down. I've got the bucket now underneath it, and I'm hoping the bucket it'll drop into the bucket and it'll catch it or whatnot. It'll be easy enough to push it off to the side and then continue out to the beach. It's about 1:30 at this point, though. I'm going to have some water, give some water to the plants, and then eat my sandwich, have my lunch before I tackle the saw.
Well, apologies for a rather long video. I truly am sorry about that. But I assure you, it was a very long morning. That was about 2 hours of trying to negotiate that backhoe out, off of the property. A distance of about 600 feet. It was just brutal. And so I'm hot, I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, and I'm really pissed off at this point. So I'm just gonna drink some water, eat my lunch, cut that limb down, and then, drive it on out. And of course that doesn't happen. So if you want to find out why not, be sure to subscribe to this video. Like it if you're thinking, boy, I'm glad that wasn't me, and I understand. Drop a comment in the area down below. Let me know if you've been through these sorts of problems. You ever had to dress threads with a tap? If you've ever used Permatex, which is the anti-seize lubricant that I use there. If you have, the instant you open that can, your hands are silver. That stuff just goes everywhere. Anyway, or just as always, drop me a comment, let me know how you're doing, or if you've got any questions about what you saw here, or if you've got suggestions about things that you would like me to talk about, by all means, use the comments for that. There's lots and lots of space in those comment sections, so don't be shy. Too many of my viewers are former students, and I'm really not surprised that I'm not getting a lot of comments, because I didn't get many in class either. You guys just kept your mouth shut and your head down, and cowards all. And also, of course, share this if you would. If you're chatting with somebody and they want to know, hey, what's going on with Patty and Warner? Let them know. Point them in this direction. The second video should come out, I hope, within a week or so, because it too is largely done. The problem that crops up right here is one that I struggled with. Well, let's see. This was the middle of June. It's now the first week of December. So this is almost a 6-month problem to resolve. It too is a long video, I'm afraid, just because there's just a lot of diagnosing that goes on with this. Anyway, I'll wrap this up now because I've talked too long here and on the video as well. But stick around for part 2. You don't want to miss it. See you then.